The night sky above the mining station on Kepler 6-2F was clear, full of strange blue stars. The air was cold, but not deadly. And inside the metal station, the lights buzzed softly. Humans and aliens worked side by side, fixing machines and processing rare minerals from the mountains nearby. Elias was one of the engineers, a young man from Earth with oil-stained hands and sharp eyes. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words were careful, strong, and sometimes surprising. Most aliens found him odd, except for one. Her name was Liari, a Viren girl with silver skin, glowing violet eyes, and a smile that could melt frost glass. She was tall, graceful, and proud. Her people were known for being secretive, noble, and almost royal in the way they walked and talked. But Liari liked to spend time with Elias, which many found strange. They sat together one night during a power outage, sharing heat packs and jokes. Liari looked at Elias and said, half joking and half teasing, in my culture, a man can only marry a Viren girl if he knows her true name. Elias raised an eyebrow and replied, and what if I guess it? Liari laughed, a soft and beautiful sound. Impossible, she said. Our true names are never spoken, not even to friends. They are sacred, passed down in dreams and symbols. You'd have to be a mind reader or a god. Still, Elias said, looking at her closely, if I guess your name, you'll marry me. Elri blinked, then smiled wider. Sure, she said, thinking it was just fun. If by some wild miracle you guess my real name, I'll marry you. The room was silent for a second. The hum of the backup generator was the only sound. Elias leaned closer, his voice soft, like he was sharing a secret with the stars themselves. Your name is Valeriana, he whispered. Liari's heart skipped, her smile vanished. Her body stiffened, eyes wide, her breath caught in her throat. She stared at him like he had just said something forbidden, something dangerous, something only her ancestors should know that name, she said slowly. Where did you hear that? Elias looked confused, but calm. I dreamed it, he said. A few times, actually. Since I was a boy, I didn't know what it meant until now. Liari stood up fast, almost knocking over her heat pack. No one should know that name, she said in a hushed voice, not even other Varens. Elias stood too. Did I say something wrong? That name is not just secret, she whispered. It's royal. It belonged to a bloodline that disappeared after the Varen Civil War. Some say they were hunted. Some say they vanished into the stars. Elias didn't move. But it's your name, isn't it? Liari didn't answer, not with words. Her eyes said everything. She looked both afraid and amazed, like her entire world had changed in one moment. What happens now? Elias asked. Lia looked around, worried someone had heard them. If the elders find out, she whispered, you'll be questioned. Maybe worse. They don't like humans knowing too much, especially about us. But you said you'd marry me, Elias said with a half smile. Trying to lighten the mood, Lia didn't laugh this time. She reached for her wrist device and turned it off completely, a silent signal to anyone watching that she wanted privacy. This is not a joke anymore, she said softly. You've spoken a name that was meant to be forgotten, and somehow you carry it in your dreams. Elias shrugged. Maybe it was never forgotten. Maybe it was waiting for someone to remember. Liari sat down again, slower this time, her mind racing. Elias, I need to know how you know that name. It's not just a name, it's a key, a link to something ancient. Then let's find out together, he said, his voice calm, but something deeper was now in his eyes. Something strong outside. The stars blinked quietly, unaware that a joke had just turned into a storm in a galaxy where names held power and history lived in bloodlines. One human had whispered the unthinkable, and an alien girl would never be the same again. Liari couldn't sleep that night. She sat alone in her quarters, lights dimmed, fingers trembling. Her mind kept repeating one thing: how did the human know that name? Valeriana. It echoed like thunder in her chest. That name hadn't been spoken in over 1,000 cycles, not since the fall of House Valair. The royal line that had once ruled the Varan people, that name had been erased from every record, banned. From history, only the elders carried it in silence. And now a human, a mechanic, had whispered it without fear. She stared at her communication pad, wondering if she should report Elias. If she did, the elders would come. They would erase his memory, maybe even erase him. But part of her didn't want that. Part of her wanted answers, somehow. Elias had reached into the locked past of her people. And the way he looked at Hercom, honesty didn't feel like a lie. It felt like fate in another part of the station. Elias lay awake too. He wasn't sure why he had said the name. It had just come to him. The moment he looked at her, he knew, like a puzzle piece falling into place. He remembered that dream from years ago, standing in a silver temple, reaching out to someone with glowing violet eyes, and he had whispered, Valeriana, like it was a prayer. The next morning, Liari avoided the main hall, but it was too late. The whispers had begun. A sensor drone had caught their conversation, just a small piece, but enough. The word Valeriana was now flagged, and the Varan elders were alerted. 3 of them arrived that same day, cloaked in dark robes, silent as shadows. They did not speak to humans. Not even the station commander. Their target was clear. Liari met them in the observation dome. She bowed, but not too low. She was still of noble blood, even if hidden. You allowed a human to speak the sacred name, one of the elders said. His voice was cold and heavy. I didn't allow it. Liari replied. He spoke it on his own. That's impossible, another elder snapped. Unless he is lying, or unless... He trailed off, the thought too dangerous to finish. The human must be questioned. Said the third elder, the council demands it. Liari looked up, eyes firm. I'll bring him to you, but promise me this: no harm will come to him. Until you've heard everything. The elders exchanged a glance, then nodded once. Agreed. She found Elias working quietly in the generator room, as if nothing had happened. But when he saw her face, he dropped his tools. They're here. Aren't they? He asked. Liari nodded. They want to question you about the name. Yes, but I warned them not to hurt you. Elias wiped his hands and gave her a small smile. I'm not afraid. You should be, she said. The Varan elders are not kind. They protect secrets like they protect their hearts, cold and locked. Together, they walked through the long hallway to the observation dome. The metal walls seemed to tighten with every step. When they arrived, the elders stood like statues. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm. Ask your questions. One elder raised a device, glowing blue. Do you know the meaning of the name you spoke? No, Elias answered. Only that I've heard it before, in my dreams. Another elder narrowed his eyes, described the dream. Elias took a breath. There's a tall temple, shining like silver under 2 suns. A girl stands in the middle, tall, strong, with violet eyes like fire. She looks at me like she's been waiting, and I say her name. Then I wake up. The room was silent. Then the eldest one said, that temple existed long ago. It was destroyed during the fall of House Velar. Only one painting of it remains, hidden on Verano's prime. Then maybe my dream was a memory, Elias said, but not mine, hers. He pointed gently at Liar. The elders looked at each other. Something unspoken passed between them. Finally, one of them said, there's only one way to know if you speak truth. You must face the trial of names. Liari gasped. That test is for our kind only. He's human. Then let him prove he's more. The elder said, if he survives, we will believe him. If he fails, The name dies with him. Elias nodded. Slowly, I'll do it. Liari grabbed his arm. You don't know what it is. It's not a puzzle or a riddle, it's a mental fire, a spiritual storm. If your heart lies, it will burn you alive. Then I'll tell the truth, he said, softly, like I always have in that moment. Liari saw something in Elias she hadn't noticed before, not just bravery, but a strange connection to her past, to her blood, her heart, once full of jokes and fire, now carried a new weight. The elders stepped aside. Prepare him, they said. The trial begins at dawn. The trial of names was just one day away, but already Elias could feel the weight of it in every step he took. The Varen elders had given him a small room filled with nothing but silence and a strange, glowing crystal. It pulsed with energy, like it was watching him. Liari sat outside, her fingers shaking as she held her own communication device. She had sent a message to her aunt on Verano's Prime, one of the last remaining members of her hidden family. She begged her to confirm something. She feared deeply. Was Valeriana really her true name? And if so, why did a human carry it in his dreams? Hours passed. The stars above the station changed color, shifting from silver to green. The sky signaled nightfall, but no one slept, not that night. Inside the elder's chamber, another voice had entered the discussion. This one was cold, proud, and sharp as a blade. Commander Raelyari's cousin, and a high-ranking Varen soldier had arrived with his private ship. His mission was simple. Remove the human, Rael said firmly. This trial is a waste. He is a risk to Varen secrets. The council gave me full rights to eliminate him if I sense deception. The elders did not argue. Instead, they let Rael walk the halls freely, with silent guards following him. Elias now had eyes watching him from every corner. But it wasn't fear that filled him, it was purpose. The next morning, just before dawn, Lyre burst into Elias's room. Her face pale, her voice urgent. We have to run, she said. Now Elias stood, confused but calm. Why? My message was answered, she said, showing him a cracked holly-maj of an ancient woman. Her eyes like Liari's, but older, sadder. She confirmed it. Valeriana was the name given to the last daughter of House Vier before they vanished. It is mine. My name was sealed until the right one could speak it back to me. Elias stared at the image. So I wasn't wrong. No, Liari whispered. You were impossibly right. And now they want you gone before the truth spreads. Just then, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashing across the halls. A message echoed through the comms. Attention, security lockdown. Human subject Elias is to be detained, dead or alive. Lyre's blood ran cold. Rael, she hissed. He's acting without full approval. They ran. Through narrow tunnels and quiet maintenance shafts, Elias knew the station better than anyone. He had worked on its circuits, mapped its power grid. Every corner became a tool in their escape. They slid down a service chute into the underground vehicle bay. But soldiers were already there, blocking the main exit. Elias turned to Liar. How far can you teleport? Not far enough, she said. Only to the outer rings of the station. Then we'll blast through, he said, pointing at an old mining crawler nearby. It's strong, heavy, and full of armor plating. I fixed it myself last week. The plan was risky, but it was all they had. Elias started the engine while Lier took the rear seat, charging a small plasma shield to deflect incoming shots. As the crawler roared to life, the soldiers opened fire. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed louder. But the crawler pushed forward. Its metal frame took the hits. Smashing through crates and barriers, Elias drove like a ghost through flame. Calm and focused. One soldier jumped on top, trying to cut through the hatch. Lyre kicked open the upper. Doran struck him with a pulse blast, sending him flying across the bay. Finally, They burst through the cargo gate and into the snowy mountains outside the station. Wind howled, and the ground cracked beneath them. But they kept going. They didn't stop until the station lights were just tiny dots behind them. Elias parked the crawler in a hidden cave. Smoke rising from its damaged engine. Inside the cave, they finally breathed. Elias leaned back, heart racing but alive. Liari sat beside him, her hands glowing faintly as she healed a burn on his arm. "Why are you doing this for me?" Elias asked softly. Liari didn't answer right away. Her eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she had waited her whole life to solve. "Because when you said my name," she whispered, "it felt real, not like a word, but like a memory waking up, like my soul had heard it before, and was waiting to be found." Elias smiled. Maybe it was. Outside, snow began to fall, silent and gentle. But inside the cave, a storm was still building. They were now fugitives from a powerful empire, hunted by soldiers and wanted by the council. But they had something more powerful than fear, a truth no one could explain, and a bond that no one could break. And Liari knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. The cave was cold, but it was safer than the station. For now, Elias and Liari had time to breathe. The fire crackled low as snow drifted outside, but neither of them spoke for a long time. Their thoughts were heavy, full of questions and fear. Liari stared at her glowing palm. Her bloodline Valeriana had returned because of a human. She didn't know if it was destiny, madness, or something far older. But one thing was clear. They couldn't hide forever. "We need to go to the ruins," she said at last. Elias looked up. "What ruins?" "There's a place," she said, "on a moon called Kriven 5. It's where the old Varan temples once stood. My ancestors worshipped the stars there. Some believe the true names were written into the stones so they could never be forgotten." Elias nodded slowly. "And you think my dreams are connected to those ruins?" "I don't think," she whispered. "I know. You said you saw a silver temple with 2 suns. Kriven 5 has 2 suns. It was a dangerous plan. Kriven 5 was off-limits, under Varan military control. Anyone caught entering would be arrested or worse." But Elias didn't hesitate. "Then that's where we go," he said. They used the emergency beacon from the mining crawler to call a smuggler ship. An old contact of Liari's from her rebel days, the ship arrived just before sunrise. Hidden beneath a stealth field, its pilot, a half-blind alien named Mach, didn't ask too many questions. "You're lucky I owe you," Mach said, as they boarded his rusted freighter. "Kriven 5 is cursed, you know? People say the old spirits still walk the ruins." Liari glanced at Elias. "That's what we're hoping." The journey through hyperspace took 2 days. During that time, Elias had more dreams. Some were clear, others broken, but each one showed flashes of the Silver Temple and a girl with violet eyes always reaching toward him. When they arrived, Kriven 5 looked quiet. The surface was covered in dark sand, and broken stones reached toward the sky like bones. No ships flew nearby, and the military beacons had long gone silent. Whatever had once been here was abandoned. They landed near a ridge and climbed toward the largest ruin. It looked just like Elias's dream, tall, silver, and broken under twin suns. The moment his boots touched the ancient stone, he felt something shift inside him. "It's here," he said. "I don't know how I know, but it's here." They walked through the shattered gate, passing carvings and broken columns. Strange symbols lined the walls, some glowing faintly in the sunlight. Liari placed her hand on one symbol, and it lit up brighter, responding to her. Blood. Then they saw it. At the center of the temple was a stone circle, like an altar, and carved deep into the stone was a name. Valerian. Elias stepped closer. He knelt beside the name and touched it gently. The moment his fingers met the stone, His mind exploded with light. In his vision, he stood in the full temple, not broken, but whole. A voice called out. "Sweet and strong Valeriana," it said. "Daughter of stars, you are not lost. You are waiting." Then he saw her, not Liari, but someone older, wiser. She smiled and touched his chest. "You will carry the name to the one who forgot it. When the stars return, so will the flame." He gasped and pulled his hand away, sweat on his forehead. His body shook like he had held a sun in his chest. Liari caught him before he fell. "What did you see?" she asked. "I saw her," Elias whispered. "Your ancestor. Maybe even your soul from another life. She told me the name was mine to carry, not to own, but to deliver. To give back to you." Liari's heart pounded. She reached out and placed her hand on the stone, too. This time, the entire temple began to glow. The carvings lit up one by one, as if remembering. The sky above changed color, the twin suns merging briefly into one. A sign, the old Varans would say, of rebirth. But the moment didn't last long. A sharp sound echoed outside the blast of a landing ship. Then another. Heavy boots hit the sand and armored soldiers began surrounding the ruin. Rail had tracked them. "We're out of time," Elias said. Liar looked around. "There's a way out under the altar. It's an old tunnel used by the temple priests." They pushed aside the stone circle and climbed into darkness. Just as Rail and his troops entered the main chamber, the glowing carvings faded behind them as they ran through the ancient tunnels. Liari held Ilias's hand tightly. "They saw the name," Elias said, breathing hard. "Now they know everything. Let them," she whispered. The truth is no longer hidden, and somewhere, deep inside her, for the first time, she felt whole. The old tunnel led them far beneath the ruins. The walls were smooth stone, covered in carvings that glowed as they passed. The light followed Liari, like it knew her blood, like it remembered her. They walked in silence for hours, only stopping when they reached an ancient chamber deep under the temple. It was round, wide, and cold. A circle of broken crystals sat in the center, dust covering the floor. But something about the place still felt alive. "This is it," Liari whispered. "The Chamber of Names." Elias looked around, unsure. "It doesn't look like much." Liari stepped into the circle, her eyes glowing faintly. "This is where the trial was once done, before the elders took it for themselves." "What is the trial exactly?" Elias asked, his voice quiet, serious now. "It's not a fight," she said. "It's a test of soul. You're shown memories, some real, some not. If your heart lies, the chamber rejects you. You feel pain, confusion, fear. If your heart is true, the chamber reveals your bond. And if I fail?" He asked. "You'll forget everything," she whispered, "including me." Elias took a slow breath, then stepped into the circle beside her. "Then let's hope my heart remembers." Liari reached into her cloak and pulled out a small glowing stone, the key of Velar. Her family's last relic. She placed it in the center of the crystal circle, and suddenly the entire room came to life. The floor lit up, symbols spinning around them. The air grew thick, and then everything went silent. Elias blinked and found himself alone. No chamber, no Liar, just white space, endless and soft. Then came the voice. "Name the one who walks beside you," it whispered. Elias tried to speak, but no sound came. Then a memory formed before him. He saw Liari standing in the rain the first day they met, wearing her broken translator, laughing at his broken wrench. Then he saw her fighting off raiders to save a child on the station. Then he saw her asleep under a tree, mumbling in her native tongue. He smiled. "Liari." He whispered, "Valeriana." The space around him cracked, light shining through. Then came another voice. Darker now. "You don't belong. You are not Varen. You are not worthy. A wall of fire rose before him, hot and blinding, but he didn't run, he stepped into it. Remembering the warmth of Liari's hand, her voice, her courage, the fire turned blue, then vanished. Now he stood in the silver temple from his dreams, whole and shining, and at the center was a throne, empty. Elias walked to it and placed his hand on the armrest. "I don't want power," he said. "I just want the truth. I just want her to be free." The temple trembled, then began to fade. His vision blurred on. Then he was back. Lying on the chamber floor, Liari kneeling beside him, eyes wide and wet with tears. "You did it," she whispered. "The chamber accepted you." Elias sat up slowly. "I saw everything, even you as a child, hiding in the starlight." Liari laughed softly. "That was real. You saw what no one else could." Suddenly, a rumble shook the cave. The tunnel behind them collapsed with a boom, and from the dust stepped Commander Rail and 2 Varan soldiers. "Weapons ready. It's over," Rail said coldly. "You've gone too far, cousin." Liari stood between Elias and Rail. "If you harm him, the chamber will reject your line forever." Rail scoffed. "My line is strong. Your name means nothing now." Elias stood, still weak, but with fire in his voice. "Then test me? Right. Here, let the chamber decide." Rail paused, then stepped into the circle. "Fine," he growled. "Let the stars speak." The chamber lit again, and Rail was pulled into the vision. But it lasted only seconds. He screamed and dropped to his knees, blood leaking from his nose. The chamber went dark. Liari stepped forward. "The chamber rejected you. You lied to your own soul." Rail's guards stepped back in fear, unsure what to do. Elias walked past him and placed the key of Viela back in Liari's hand. "This belongs to her," he said, "and always has." Rail tried to stand, but stumbled, his pride shattered, his strength gone. The soldiers lowered their weapons and bowed slightly not to Elias, but to Liar. "Valeriana has returned," one said, "and the chamber has spoken." Liar looked at Elias, her heart pounding. "You passed a test even Varan's fear. The chamber saw your soul and welcomed it. I didn't do it for power." Elias said softly, "I did it for you." She smiled through her tears. And for the first time in generations, the blood of Velor burned bright again, not just in the name, but in the bond between an alien girl and the human who remembered her name from a forgotten lifetime. They left the ancient chamber in silence. The snow had stopped outside, and the sky was now clear. 2 moons shined above the broken ruins. Casting a silver light on the frozen world, Elias and Liari stood near the old landing ridge, watching the Varan soldiers quietly return to their ship. None of them dared look Elias in the eye. They had seen what the chamber did, how it lit up for him, how it burned Commander Rail. And now they feared the old stories were true. Liari turned to Elias, her voice low and soft. "The chamber didn't just test you, it marked you." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" She reached out and touched his forehead. "There's a mark now, a symbol only Varans can see. It means you are bonded not just to me, but to the name Valerana itself. I didn't ask for that." Elias said quietly. "No," Lia said. "But you earned it, and now we both carry something greater than blood." She pulled a small mirror from her pocket, and when Elias looked, he saw a faint glow on his forehead, curved mark like a star wrapped in a flame. He felt strange, like he had always carried it, but only now noticed. "What will happen now?" he asked. Liari took a deep breath. "We'll be hunted. Some will say we broke the ancient law. Others will say we fulfilled prophecy." "Prophecy?" he asked with a half-smile, seriously. Liari nodded slowly. "There was an old saying. From the last queen of Velor, the name will be lost in silence, until a voice not born of stars returns it with love." Elias chuckled softly. Not born of stars, huh? That's me, plain earthborn, but not plain, she whispered. You did what no Varen could do. You remembered a truth buried in time. They left Kriven 5 with Mock's help, flying in silence through the dark reaches of space. Liari sat close to Elias, her hand never letting go of his. She didn't care about the rules anymore. The law was made by people who feared change, and now change had come, but peace didn't last long. 2 days later, their ship was intercepted. A fleet of Varen warships surrounded them, blocking every path. The lead ship sent a message, surrender. Valeriana and the human, or we will open fire. Mock looked at them both, panic on his face. You didn't say you were bringing a royal scandal aboard. Liari stood up, calm and unshaken. They won't shoot, she said. Not until they hear the truth. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. And if they don't want the truth, then we give them something louder, she said. Hope. They allowed themselves to be taken, but not in chains. They stepped onto the warship side by side, not as prisoner and guard, but as equals. The Varan Council was waiting, seated in a circle of fire and crystal. The elders looked tired, older than before, their eyes full of worry and disbelief. At the center was the High Speaker, a woman with a crown made of living crystal. You dare return wearing the name of Velor? She asked Liari. Liari stepped forward. I don't wear it. I am it, and the human. The High Speaker said coldly, What is he to you? Elias didn't wait. He stepped beside Liari and spoke loud enough for every voice to hear. I am the one who remembered her name, the one who crossed time to speak it. I am not Varen, but I carry your history inside me. Whispers filled the room. Some elders looked horrified, others amazed. The bond is real, Liari said, lifting Ilias's hand. The chamber accepted him, marked him, and I accept him too. You broke sacred law, another elder growled. No Varan shall bond with an outsider. The law was made to protect the name, Liar answered, but he gave it back, not for power. Not for Warrenly, for me. The High Speaker raised her hand. Silence returned. She stood slowly. Her voice deep and old. There has not been a true bloodline since the fall of Vylar, and now a stranger brings it back. If this bond is real, then it may heal more than Lit, may heal our people. She turned to Elias. You are not one of us, yet you carry something ancient. Do you swear to protect this bond, even if it breaks your own world? Lias nodded. I do, with everything I am. Then she turned to Liari. Do you accept him as one of us, not just in name, but in spirit? Liari smiled. I already have. The room stayed silent for a long time. And then the High Speaker spoke the final words. Then so it shall be. Valeriana lives again. Tay, and the bond is law. Later that night, in the quiet of a guest chamber high above the stars, Liari looked out at the galaxy. Elias stood beside her, his arm around her waist. You changed everything. She said, No. Elias whispered, You were the spark. I just remembered the fire. And together, under the same stars that once watched over an ancient name, they made a new beginning, not just for themselves, but for a people who had forgotten how to hope. The news spread faster than light across Varen colonies through human spaceports, and even into the old neutral zones. One message echoed: Valeriana lives again, and she walks beside a human for centuries. The name had been hidden, protected, and feared. Now it was spoken with awe, some with anger, others with hope. But no one could ignore it. The old bloodline had returned, and it had chosen a path no one expected on Verano's prime. The great city of Alvora prepared for a day many thought would never come. The city had once been the heart of the Varen royal family. But after the fall of House Vieller, it became a silent capital, guarded but empty, waiting for something or someone to awaken it. Now that someone was Liari. She stepped through the gates, dressed in traditional Varan robes. Dark purple with silver trim, her hair was braided in the royal pattern. But her eyes were filled with something new, something stronger than pride. Beside her walked Elias in a simple black suit with a Varan sash over his shoulder. The symbol of the bond glowed faintly on his forehead, visible only to those with Varan sight, but even those who couldn't see it felt it as they entered the grand hall of names. Where statues of ancient rulers stood in silence, the crowds parted. No one bowed not because of disrespect, but because they were frozen in awe. The high speaker stood at the far end, flanked by the council. She raised her voice, loud enough to reach every ear, even those watching from distant screens. Today, the past becomes future. The name once feared returns, not in war, but in love. She turned to Liari and Elias, Valeriana. Daughter of stars, do you come to claim your place? Liari stepped forward. I do, but not to rule with fear. I come to unite what was broken. To lead not alone, but with him. Elias stepped forward as well. His voice was steady, but his heart pounded in his chest. I am not Varan, but I have walked through your fire. I have spoken the name with truth, and I stand here only because of her. Then came the moment no one expected. Liari reached into her robe and pulled out the key of Vilar, the same glowing stone from the trial chamber. She placed it on the ancient altar before them. It pulsed once, then lit up brighter than anyone had seen before. A wave of light spread through the hall, touching every statue, every wall. Symbols appeared in the air, floating and spinning. Old songs began to play, music lost for generations, now remembered, and then a voice spoke not from a person, but from the altar itself, soft, ancient, and full of power. The name has been returned, the bloodline reborn. Let the stars witness this bond, and let the flame rise again. Gasps filled the hall. Some fell to their knees, not out of worship, but out of deep, soul-shaking realization. The bond between Elias and Liari had awakened something greater than tradition. Greater than rules, it had awakened memory, unity, and truth. That night, across Varan space, old monuments began to glow again, forgotten temples reactivated, and dreams returned to those who once stopped dreaming. Even on Earth, the story became legend. A human had not just bonded with an alien royal, he had remembered something no one else could, and brought a name back to life in the days that followed. Liari and Elias led missions to old Varan worlds, helping rebuild what war had broken. They opened learning centers where humans and Varans could study each other's history. They disbanded the old warrior caste, replacing it with peacekeepers made of both species. But not everyone accepted the change. Small factions of the old order rose in secret. Calling Liari a traitor and Elias a fake, they whispered lies in the shadows. But the light was too strong now. The people had seen the truth with their own eyes, and more importantly, with their hearts. One day, as they walked through the restored temple on Krivan 5, Elias turned to Liari and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I never guessed your name?" She laughed softly, her voice like wind through stars. "Then I would still be half asleep, and the galaxy would still be holding its breath." He took her hand. "I didn't save anything, you know. I just remembered. But memory is powerful," she said, "sometimes more powerful than weapons." And as they stood under the twin suns, the old temple glowing once again, Liari kissed him softly and whispered, "Thank you for saying my name." He smiled. "Thank you for letting me above them." The stars burned brighter than ever. Not in anger, not in fear, but in celebration. A forgotten name had returned. A bond had broken the rules, and a new age had begun. All because an alien girl joked, and a human remembered.